Hello and good morning. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of Discover with Spinetti. I'm Dr. Halim Spinetti, and today on episode number 131, we're talking about who's in your head. Who's in your head? Who's occupying your mind? Who is living in the space between your ears and not allowing you to live the life that you need to live? Before we go on with this, because this is the last point that I'm going to be talking about today, so I thought I'd go in reverse and then start from the beginning, which is your hero. So when you talk about the hero, the someone that you look up to, whether it's a fictional character or whether it's a real character, whether they're alive or whether they're ancient, every one of us has some form of hero, someone that they look up to, someone that they say to themselves, this is the person who I hold in high regard. Now, when you are thinking about your hero, what you have to do is you have to write down all the heroes that you're thinking about. That's step number one, is to write them down. And this is a good exercise for you to realize who it is that you actually look up to. Step number two is to look in the mirror. And step number three is to realize that you are the hero in your own story. That gives me shivers every time I talk about it, because when you think of the heroes that have lived or currently live, and then you look in the mirror and you realize you are the hero of your own story, and you have to develop yourself as the main character, the main hero in your own story, then things change, because now you have to look up to your own self. You have to develop a character that you are going to say, I am the person who I look up to. That is the most power you can give to yourself. And Epictetus, this is where this majority of the talk today is coming from. Epictetus is an ancient philosopher, and he used to be a former slave turned philosopher who influenced the guys who influenced the Roman emperor philosopher Marcus Aurelius. You may have heard his name. If you haven't, Google him. A lot of his quotes are used by a lot of people without giving credit to him, but he is someone who a lot of people look up to because he was very wise. But his main teacher, one of his main teachers that he says, is Epictetus. So how do you harness the power of your own heroic self? How do you become your own hero? Because if you don't look up to your own self, then you cannot live to your own potential. There are 3 steps according to Epictetus. The first step is for you to understand what is not in your control, what is not in your power, as he says. Whatever that you cannot control, whatever that is not in your power, should not be your concern. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is you have to understand what things that are within your power, such things as your opinion, your beliefs, your efforts, your choices, your attitudes, your perceptions. Anything that you can control in your mind are things that are within your power. And those are the things that Epictetus says you should be focused on, and you should use them and change them at your will. And the last, which is the title of today's podcast, is who's in your head? And whoever's in your head, get them out. Because if they're occupying your mind, then you're not living to your potential. Rumi, who is also known to be one of the philosophers, an Islamic philosopher, a Sufi philosopher, he says that if you are irritated by every rub, how will you be polished? So if everything that goes against you, or anything that doesn't go along your own path or doesn't suit you, if it irritates you, how are you going to become a better person? Because obviously any kind of difficulty is meant to allow us to become much better people. So the question now begs itself, how do you stay in control of your mind when something frustrates you? And quite simply, the number 1 aspect is, are you ready for this? To control your emotions. That is the number 1 thing. And how do you control your emotions? Well, as I've discussed in previous podcasts, the number 1 thing for you to do is to control your breath, because your breath is something you can control immediately. Marcus Aurelius tells us that it is incredibly silly to allow others to have any influence over us when they themselves don't like themselves. He says that the approval of such men who do not stand well in their own eyes has no value for him. So, most people who criticize you, if not the majority of people, if not all the people who criticize you, the criticism is coming from below. It's not coming from above. That's where criticism comes from. So, people that are better than you, people that have struggled and have gone through, have studied more, have worked more, have gone through more hardships, very few of those people will actually criticize you because they understand the path that you're going through. But the people that haven't gone through, who refuse to go through, who are trapped in their own minds with regards to their advancement in their life, they see you doing certain things that they themselves wish that they could. They're the ones that are going to criticize you. One person said, with regards to being frustrated, because obviously any kind of criticism or any kind of hardship or any circumstance that doesn't go along in our own path, doesn't go in our way, doesn't become part of what we have envisioned, it frustrates us. And that frustration is something that locks us up. Okay. And what happens is that we think that that frustration towards that person that is causing us the frustration is punishing that person. And the analogy that this person gave is that he said that when you're frustrated in the hopes that when you're frustrated with a person in the hopes that you're going to punish that person because of your frustration is like eating rat poison, hoping that the rat will die. So when you are frustrated, you are actually harming your own self, no one else. So if you're frustrated and you think that your frustration is going to change any circumstance of that person that is frustrating you or that upsetting you, then it's like eating a rat poison yourself and expecting the rat to die. So, what is it that you have to do if someone frustrates you or upsets you? Quite simply, according to Marcus Aurelius, is to leave them, okay, and to set a different path for yourself. So, in summary, it is important for you to live to your potential. And in order for you to live to your potential, because you only have one life, we only have one life. And so, what better way to live our life than to fulfill it to our absolute most potential? And to do that, it is to become your own hero of your own story. And the 3 steps for you to become the own hero of your own story is 1, to realize the things that you cannot control. And that thing should not concern you. So whatever you can't control, whether it's the economy, whether it's the weather, whatever it is that you cannot control, that should not concern you. Number 2 is to focus on things that you can control. And the main thing that you can control is the thing between your ears, your opinions, your beliefs, your attitude, your perceptions. And lastly is to clear your mind, because whatever you're allowing to live in between the 2 ears, whatever you're allowing to live in your mind is going to control your thoughts, and your thoughts will control your life. So clear your mind, focus on your breathing, and let go of whoever is upsetting or frustrating you. And remember to always have a great day and to smile. We'll see you tomorrow.